Welcome back to my channel. I know I've been absent for a while, since I'm working on different projects I'll present to you in the future. But I wanted to celebrate this special day by dedicating a video to one of the three famous saints of Ireland. Let's take a look at Lahaida Brigid, St. Bridget's Day. St. Bridget's Day, as it's celebrated today in Ireland on the first day of February, derives from the old Celtic celebration of Imbolc. Imbolc was traditionally celebrated on the night to the 1st of February, as one of the four so-called quarter days: Imbolc, Beltane, Lunasa, and Samhain. Those quarter days mark the halfway between two seasons and two solstice dates, so Imbolc marks the halfway between winter and spring. It's a celebration of the end of the dark, cold winter days and the start of the rebirth of nature. It's a celebration of fertility, hope, and growth. After all, the calving season starts, as well as the lambing season. Flowers begin to emerge from the cold ground, and trees start to grow buds. By the way, the word Imbolc literally translates from Old Irish to "in the belly", referring to the pregnancy of cows and ewes. But that was the old festival of Imbolc. Like many old festivals, Christianity adopted them and changed them to fit into Christian beliefs and to strengthen the influence of the church. So Imbolc changed and became the festival of St. Bridget, also known as Lahaida Brigid, celebrated on the 1st and 2nd day of February. But who is this Bridget who is celebrated on this holy day? Well, that depends a little bit on who you ask. It's believed that she might be a Christianized version of the old goddess Brigid. In common law, though, she's a Christian saint. Well, not just any saint, but one of the three big saints of Ireland: St. Patrick, St. Columcille, and St. Bridget. Or maybe she's a mix of both women? In the ancient mythology of Ireland, Brigid was the daughter of the Dada, the good god, and at some point the High King of the Tuatha Dé Danann, and of Ireland. She was said to be a fire goddess and a goddess of healing, while the Christian St. Bridget, on the other hand, is a patron saint of babies, fugitives, poets, travelers, and so many more. As you can see, the list is very long. But that still doesn't explain who she is. Let's take a short look at her life. St. Bridget is also known as Brigid, Bríd, Bríd, Brigida of Kildare, and under some other names. She was born around 451, near Dundalk, as daughter of a picked slave. Her mother, Brocha, was probably one of the first Christians of Ireland, and according to legend, she was baptized by St. Patrick himself. Her father, Dubhtach, was the owner of Brocha, who was pirated from abroad, like Patrick himself once was. His wife was jealous of Brocha and forced her to give Bridget up, to sell her into slavery with the Druids. But she was of no use for the Druids, but rather a source of constant trouble. Every time they would try to feed her, she would vomit all over the place, until, according to legend, a white cow with red ears appeared to feed her with its own milk. But even though she finally ate, she continued to be trouble for the Druids, and so when she was only 10 years old, they decided to sell her back to her father. Her father, though, did not find her less difficult. She always had a generous side, too generous for her father, for she gave away his belongings to the poor at every opportunity she got. Well, of course, this woke the wrath of Dubhtach, and so he tried to sell her again, to none other but the king. But while the king and her father tried to come to a deal over the beautiful young girl, she stole a sword covered in jewels from the king, sold it on the market, and gave the money she made to the poor. But while her father was bursting with anger, the king was not angry at all, but impressed by the purity and, in a way, holiness of this young girl, and he made her father set her free. A little while after Bridget gained her freedom, she decided to join a holy order and to take the oath of chastity. This did not go well with her family, though. Duftak, indeed, had more than this one child, and he had promised a fair share of the money Bridget would make when she married to his sons. Since marriage was out of the question now, they were, well, let's say, not pleased with Bridget. One of her brothers even went so far to threaten her by saying that one of her beautiful eyes would be married to a rich man, whether she would like it or not. But Bridget was fearless and headstrong. She took her finger and stuck it into one of her eyes, saying that this is the beautiful eye her brother spoke of, and that no man ever would ask for a blind girl. Well, this seemed to have ended any discussion, for in the end she took her vows, and as legend has it, by miracle, as soon as she took her vows, her eye returned, as if nothing ever happened. Some time went by, and Bridget lived her new life. She went to an old oak tree, where pagan priestesses would lit fires for the pagan goddess Brigid, after whom Saint Bridget was named, and she quickly decided to take that place over. She invited 7 women to join her, and together they founded Kildare, the Church of Oak, the first woman-led abbey of Ireland. If you think that this place sounds familiar, you might be right, for today we know this place as Kildare. So Bridget had found the ideal place for her abbey. But of course, she needed the permission of the king to found her abbey there. And so she went to the king of Leinster to ask him for the land with its neat little stream and the beautiful forest nearby. Well, if you think that he was happy to give that land to Bridget, think again. The king back then was a pagan, and not really happy about the thought to give land to a Catholic. But Bridget was intelligent and witty. When the king laughed at her face, she just smiled gently and asked him if he would give her as much land as her cloak would cover. What a strange question, isn't it? The king must have thought that she was insane or joking, and in the end, he agreed. But Bridget knew exactly what she was doing. Legend has it that 4 of her sisters each took a corner of the cloak and ran in 4 different directions. And as they ran, the cloak wasn't ripped apart, but it grew and grew and grew, so big that the king watched in disbelief. He grew desperate and begged Bridget to call her sisters back. He would give her a good parcel of land as long as she would please call her sisters back. Satisfied, Bridget agreed and called her sisters back to her. And so Bridget got her land, and also something to remind the king of every time he forgot to be kind to the weak and poor. Legend has it also that this king soon became Catholic. The Abbey of Kildare didn't stay the only one Bridget founded, but the abbesses of Kildare were always regarded as the superior generals of the Irish monasteries. But magically growing a cloak and growing back an eye aren't the only miracles for which St. Bridget is known. She is also said to have been able to turn water into beer, to heal the mute and injured, and to control the weather, simply by praying. But even more, she was known for her kindness, especially towards the poor and weak. Still, she was and probably is best known for her famous symbol, the St. Bridget's cross. Legend has it that she found the pagan king in his deathbed and comforted him. Then she is said to have taken up some rushes, or woven reeds from the ground, and to have woven a cross out of them, explaining the Christian faith to the dying king. Inspired by her words, the pagan king converted to Christianity just before he took his last breath. I'm not sure, though, if that was the same king she previously had asked for the land for a convent. In any way, she helped to convert at least one pagan king to Christianity, and many people more. All in all, she was a kind, intelligent, wise and strong woman. Saint Bridget of Kildare. Now that you know when we celebrate St. Bridget's Day, and who and what we celebrate, there's one question to be answered. How do we celebrate? One St. Bridget's Day tradition are the so-called Biddy Boys. Mainly in Connacht and Munster, it was custom for groups of Biddy Boys to walk from door to door, carrying a straw figurine of St. Bridget, the Brídeach, dressed in white. Sometimes they were accompanied by fiddlers, pipers, and basically everyone who was in the mood to follow them. In doing so, they collected money or food for a big celebration the next day for the whole town, to honor Bridget. And even though giving something to those Biddy Boys was optional, it was considered rather rude and unlucky to refuse. By the way, the straw figurine was often carried by the prettiest young girl of the town, dressed in white or as the saint herself, who then was called Brídeoga. Another tradition is the tradition of leaving some clothing outside of the house on St. Bridget's Eve. This could have been a scarf, a cloak or something similar. Ideally something that resembles the cloak Bridget used to gain the land for her abbey. Why do we do that? Well, it's a common belief that St. Bridget would wander around the fields to bless them during the night. And people are praying for her to bless the clothing too. Those clothes would then gain healing properties. For example, you could wrap them around your body if you have a stomachache, or around your head if you have a headache, and St. Bridget's power would ease the pain. In the same manner, if ribbons are left outside to become blessed, they would also get healing properties and would be called Bræt Bríde. And a Bræt Bríde would not just have healing properties, but also be a charm on journeys and protect its owner from harm. And while we're at it that St. Bridget wanders around at night, blessing the fields, it's not uncommon for housewives to tidy up the house beforehand, to honor Bridget's presence, and also to leave some food outside the door for Bridget to enjoy, just like we do with Santa Claus. And last but not least, the most famous tradition, creating a St. Bridget's cross, krossbride, from straw or rushes. These crosses, like Bridget used to explain Christianity by, are talismans, created by Irish kids in schools every single year. They would protect their owner from disease and evil spirits, and his house, if hung on a door, from fire and lightning. So it's not just a symbol of faith, but also a strong talisman. And given these times, a little bit of blessing from Bridget would be very welcome. And that's it for today's video. Let me know in the comments down below if and how you celebrate Imbolc or St. Bridget's Day. La Héile Bríde Seanad Uait. Happy St. Bridget's Day. See you next time. Bye.